Hark the bardic paladin, who sings and plays again. He tells the tales of glory and weaves a magic story. He'll join you at your table and ask you to share a fable. Heroes of humble origin, villains who must be fought again. No matter their skill or prowess, the people in life are countless. So we pray you heed our request. Enjoy this tale of sidekicks and side quests.
Episode 92, Clover the Crystal Merchant. Welcome to Sidekicks and Side Quests, the Dungeons & Dragons podcast that helps to put humans back into humanity and breathe life into your campaign NPCs with backstory and bravado. That's right, we're building a world, one character at a time. I am your host, Kurt Krenwelge, the Bardic Paladin, and I'll be joining Johnny Stanton IV's table in the Levitating Platter. Hello everyone and welcome to another exciting episode of Sidekicks and Side Quests, the best unofficial Dungeons & Dragons podcast in my humbly biased opinion, and a special treat for you today, for this is basically the last episode that we're recording today of the year, so it's also like our Christmas and our New Year's Eve episode, so way to go progress. Howdy y'all, this episode is sponsored by Plus One EXP. Tony Vicinda is the mastermind behind this mastercraft of beard balms, game design, and community building. He's got beard balms named after all the basic stats from D&D, so get a can, apply it to your face, and smell the sweet aroma and the sweet victory that comes along with increased strength, dexterity, charisma, and more. Beards and Beyond is the indie RPG that helped to launch this entire brand, but Tony's collaborated and developed several other projects, including Repugnant, iToaster, Down We Go, Through the Void, Vamp Nugula, and Brandstanding. If you support Plus One EXP either by buying something on their website or going to the itch page, tonyplus1.itch.io, it all helps funnel into the Plus One Forward program, which seeks to support additional indie tabletop content creators to continue making awesome stuff. So, I'd highly encourage you to follow Tony and Plus One EXP on all of the socials, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, in order to keep up with all the various projects that are being worked on, as well as upcoming interviews, one-shots, and actual plays of some of these awesome games. And if you don't mind, when you go to the website, plus1exp.com, and you see that affiliate code box, go ahead and type in Randolph when you're buying a beard balm or a beard RPG in order to get some savings on your purchase at no extra cost to you. Again, that code is Randolph at checkout on the website, plus1exp.com. Without any further delay, hello, mystery contestant. Would you like to introduce yourself and tell us who it is that you are and what is it that you do?
Hey there. Well, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year from October, 24th?
Yes.
If that's okay for me to reveal the date.
Oh, sure, yeah.
My name is Johnny Stanton. I play fullback in the NFL, currently unaffiliated with the team, and I'm a huge D&D nerd and lover of all things nerdy.
Yes, I know. I want to proclaim it here and now that when I had my work fantasy football draft, you were the first person that I drafted. So everyone else was like, why are you doing that? I was like, because he's my bro and I got to draft him.
What a lovely and ill-advised decision in fantasy football.
Yeah,
Even for the fact that I'm not on a team this year, but secondly, that like, I'm not going to get you any points. Like last year, I was able to get 6 like in one or 7 in one game. Mm-hmm. And that was one game that was max. So usually I wouldn't advise choosing a fullback, especially in the first round, but I very much appreciate it. It's very nice of you.
I'm more of a nerd and not a sports nerd, so that all just
it's
didn't
all one
matter
and the same.
Yeah, it's all one and the same. But we're here in the DFW area, so my wife wanted me to say, hey, tell Johnny Stanton that if he wants to go play for the Renegades in the XFL, we're more than happy to drive on down to Arlington and watch him play. So
that's very nice. Yeah.
Well, of course, I think you segued into it nicely, but do you currently, or have you ever played Dungeons & Dragons before?
I definitely have. I started back in college. I was a big comic book nerd before becoming a TTRPG nerd. And I was a regular at my local comic book shop in Las Vegas. I started getting into I was a fan for a long time of this channel called Corridor Digital, and
Mm.
they have a sister channel called Node.
Mm.
And Node was doing all like those same characters, doing D&D for a couple of sessions. They would play video games too, but there were
Mm.
a couple like playlists of them playing D&D. I'm like, oh, this is really interesting. I've heard of Dungeons and Dragons, but never really gotten into it. So like, none of my friends played as far as I know. So let me see like who I can find, and I'll go to my local comic book shop, local like nerd mecca, as far as I'm concerned,
Mm.
and see if they know anything about it. And I asked them at the front desk. I said, "Yeah, we actually have a group that just started. They're playing here on Sunday nights, every other Sunday. Why don't you join them?" And from there, it's been history. I've been trying to introduce as many people as I can to it. The very next group that I played in was I ran some like a campaign. It only went for like 5 sessions, but for some
Mm.
teammates, and that was my first time bringing anybody else in, let alone any teammates. And then I got a lot of notoriety last year for bringing a couple of my teammates with the Browns into the D&D world. So yeah, that's been a lot of fun. I play in a weekly game with I run a weekly game for my fiance and her brothers, and I play
Oh.
in a couple other ones that besides that. And yeah, I'm a big D&D nerd.
Well, I know about this time last year when we recorded, we were fortunate enough to interview Travis Frederick, who used to play for the Cowboys and now is, co-founder, CTO of Demiplane. So
Yeah.
have you had an opportunity to play in like a charity game or something with him before?
Not yet. I have been able to
Mm.
be interviewed by another former guest of the show, Andrew Strother,
Yes.
for Dwarven Forge. Travis and I appeared on the same Twitch stream. That's the first time we had met, only time we've spoken. I'm excited to be able to connect with him further. But actually, another one of my teammates and one of the people that joined joined my D&D group with the Browns, Miles Garrett, was part of that interview as well. So kind of had, big football kind of conglomeration on that stream. But yeah, I'm excited to be able to kind of speak with Travis more.
Just kind of spitballing just a ad lib question. How do you feel like your ambassadorship, if you will, helping to bridge against the stereotype of like, the jock who must
Mhm.
oppose the nerd and beat them up at the smell of polyhedral dice. And then like, well, no, it's role playing, it's creative storytelling and all that stuff. And I just want to have fun with my friends and, blow off some steam and, without worrying about getting sacked by another 400-pound muscled person.
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of become a little bit of an ambassador in terms of the sports world for it. You hear stories about like, yeah, Tim Duncan was like a big D&D nerd, but I don't think, he would barely speak to the media whenever, but he didn't, reveal to the whole world that he was a big D&D nerd. And Travis mentioned that he didn't, talk to his teammates about it when he was with the Cowboys. So I think I'm the first one to kind of proclaim that unabashedly that I roll math clicky clacking math dice
Yeah.
on whenever I can. But yeah, I think it's honestly had a great reception. I've gotten a big, a lot of my following is because of it. Not a big following, but I've gotten a lot of my following because there is a big the Venn diagram between D&D nerds and football nerds is pretty overlapping.
Yeah.
So a lot of the people that I know are big fans of both. So it's lovely to be able to kind of be welcomed within that world,
Mhm.
and also just see how big it is.
I don't know the politics of football and stuff like that and what that means, but I'm sure lots of people are like, oh, but if you ended up going to the Steelers, then that would get you on the radar of Joe Manganiello, and then that would bring you into the Jocks Machina fold or something like that.
Yeah, it's I know that Joe was I definitely know how big of a Steelers fan Joe is. And actually 2 years ago now, I had my first NFL game against the Eagles, and I, like a lot of guys, definitely like spent a lot of time trying to figure out what my pregame outfit was going to be, because you
Mhm.
see these pictures that everybody posts after the game. You're wearing your nice jacket, nice sneakers, whatever kind of makes you feel good.
Mhm.
And I wore a Rolling Stones shirt, pair of jeans with some Jordans, and a Death Saves jacket. I posted that. I tagged Death Saves. I tagged Joe, and then he hooked me up with some Death Saves gear after that. So that was cool. That's how I ended up on his radar a little bit, but still hoping to be able to grow that relationship for sure.
Well, this humble podcast is called Sidekicks and Side Quests, so we like to ask the real interesting question. Who is one of your favorite NPCs or sidekick characters, whether they're from your tabletop games or maybe a particular favorite video game, film, literature, other piece of media? And why is this character your favorite NPC or sidekick?
As far as within the D&D world, I haven't run any sidekicks within our game yet, but I think my favorite D&D sidekick in like media, I've been just blasting through NADPOD campaign 1, and I'm almost done. But Balnor, I think, is probably one of the best all-time like sidekick characters. He's just so good, and I think Murph does a great job of keeping him present within the moment, because that's the hardest thing as a DM, is trying to keep that sidekick present. In media, I mean, Samwise Gamgee is a great sidekick character. I'm not even a huge Lord of the Rings guy, but Samwise kind of the first one that comes to my mind. Little John and Robin Hood is kind of a good one. Yeah, I think the stereotype, the archetype, the sidekick is fun to kind of dissect, and like, it kind of fulfills the needs that the main character doesn't have, just like any good relationship does. So, you look at Batman and Robin, he's bright. He is not as powerful, but he's quicker and more naive and more optimistic than Batman is, kind of all fulfilling those different roles that Batman doesn't fill. So I think my favorite ones are the ones that are able to be a nice like foil to the character while still being on the same side, being like the perfect match.
And then likewise, what's been one of your favorite side quests, whether it's been one of your games, a video game, a movie, film, television, etc., and why has it been one of your favorite side quests?
I think everybody loves, and I think they kind of fill the same niche, a tournament arc in a D&D, and a festival arc, or like not necessarily arc, but it can, oftentimes like an episode or session or whatever. I think those are always fun. As far as my game goes, there was a very fun one. It was more of a main mission, I guess, but it's hard to tell within my game. There was a very fun one where this tree had opened up had like kind of teleported from the Feywild into this giant forest outside the big city, and was causing this wild magic surge to erupt within like a mile radius. So the party had to go in and take out the tree, but there were all these fake creatures surrounding it, all of like, these myconid creatures that kind of sprouted up, and, it was very alien and Feywild themed in that area without actually going to the Feywild. And then they ended up fighting the tree. It wasn't like necessarily treant stat block. It was a little bit different. It was stationary. And then its companion, which was a satyr that was very grumpy and would like curse out the party until they cast silence on him. So that was probably one of my favorite ones, because they ended up knocking the tree out, sending it back to the Feywild, and I definitely think it'll come back later in the campaign. But it'll be that's probably one of my favorite side quests that I've run.
Yeah, you were talking about a side quest that's part of a main mission, but it still feels like a side quest. I know if anyone ever flipped the table on me in Red Dead Redemption 2, there's the mission where Arthur Morgan goes to the saloon and is just like, hey, you're just supposed to take this guy for a drink. And then you have like a wild and crazy night.
Yeah.
And that's the music underlying that whole scene, and just the whole quest of it itself is just very fun and very much speaks to the spirit of Arthur Morgan. And just, whenever that voice actor's out and people are yelling, Lenny, at him and stuff like that, and he's like, all right.
Yeah, I mean, I think some of my favorite side quests within Red Dead, and I think you can definitely relate it to D&D, and if you're running a game, is I think if I remember correctly, this was one of them. But for example, you might get drunk with this side character, and then or something happens where you end up on like the other side of the map, or like in this completely foreign area, and the session, like the side quest ends, and you get whatever rewards you get, but then you're like, okay, like how am I supposed to get back to where I am? And it kind of can cause some fun chaos and confusion within the players. What a great game.
Well, before this turns into a Red Dead Redemption podcast, we'll ask the final question here in the personal interview section. What are you passionate about and why?
What am I passionate about? I'm really passionate about trying to be vocal in the things that I am passionate about. And I guess it's kind of circular, but whenever I am interested in something or wanting to stick up for something, I think the most important thing you can do is be vocal about it, especially if you have a platform. I have worked with a organization called Athlete Ally that supports LGBTQ athletes, and just, fights legislation for them, promotes their causes, and all these different things. And they're really great. And I think I might have been kind of concurrent with another player that came out this year, whose name is completely escaping me. Came out last year, used my platform in My Cause, My Cleats to promote an LGBTQ organization. So I promoted Athlete Ally. I had rainbows on my cleats, and looked incredible, and it actually got picked up by the NFL Instagram account. They reposted it, and all these people are supporting me or like hating on me because of it. And then some people are asking me like, why do that? That's some people like, why bring it up? It's not really that important, is it? I'm like, well, I think it is, and because I think it is, I'm going to use my voice to speak about it, and you should speak about the things that you think are important. So that's what I'm passionate about, is allowing people to use their platform, use their voice to stick up for the little guy, to speak out against injustices, and try to do what they can to try to make the world, a better place than when they left it. And I think using your voice is really the only way that I know how to do that.
Excellent. Well, I think we've learned a lot about our wonderful guest, Johnny Stanton IV, that I think it's time we now head into a segment called NPC Creation. NPC Creation is brought to you by you, the podcast audience, and especially our patrons from Patreon. Now is the time to give a shout out to our comfortable patrons and above with a loud hurrah. So to you, Katie Downey, and my mom and dad, we say cheers. Again, this is for patrons who donate $2 or more a month. Katie and my parents are among my highest tier wealthy level patrons, which means they get to introduce an element of chance to our random tables and NPC creation, which we might get to use here today. So if you want to learn more and join the cheapest podcast Patreon community out there this side of the table, then go to my show notes below, go to the podcast website, or just go on to patreon.com/sidekicks and side quests, all typed out, to find more information about our 3 tiers, $1 to $4 a month. Help us expand our operations at the Levitating Platter in this demi-plane and worlds beyond. We're an NPC creation, so this is the part where we make up, you guessed it, an NPC. So in discussing this, I think we were leaving it up to the moment for you to decide if you wanted to like roll the dice randomly, if there was like an idea you already had that you wanted help fleshing out, or if you wanted to like do a combo of both. Like there's an archetype or something that you wanted to work off, but then maybe some things are left to chance.
Sure. Let's make it our own. I don't think we want to make any randomization stuff. I'll looking at the stuff you showed me, there's some like you can kind of base off of myself or one of my like other NPCs or whatever. And I think let's based off myself, let's indulge my own ego and see what we can make from that.
All right, we will do that. So then the first question that we have to ask ourselves, what's the name of the character?
I'm thinking something to do with the fourth or four, like quattro, quad. I'm just spitballing here. I feel like the name should be the hardest. That should be the easiest thing.
I mean, if you want to come back to it, we have done that before. Maybe it's too hard or too soon to determine a name. Maybe you need to get an idea of who the character is before you get an idea of a name.
How about this? Let's call him Clover, because he picked up a 4-leaf clover as a kid and like stuck it with him, and that's what everybody comes across and like started giving him that nickname.
Sure. So he may have like a different name that like his family and true close friends know him by, but
everybody knows him by Clover.
Yeah, Clover. Yeah, we know that guy. Okay, cool. The next question: what is the ancestry of our character?
I don't know. This is very quickly not becoming about me, but I'm gonna go with like let's say it's an elf. Let's say a wood elf. No, I feel like that wouldn't be the craziest thing in the world for a wood elf to find a 4-leaf clover. So maybe a dwarf. I think a dwarf finding a 4-leaf clover and like keeping them around I think is more interesting than like a wood elf doing that.
Okay. All right. So a dwarf, hill, mountain, or Azer, Dwargar. A Dwargar would be interesting because they're subterranean.
Cool. Yeah. Go with hill dwarf.
Okay.
What is the difference between a mountain dwarf and a hill dwarf? I always forget.
I think in the general basic player's handbook, it's like the mountain dwarves are like tougher, but then the hill dwarves get like an extra hit point or something every time they level up.
Oh yeah, okay.
That's more of a difference of like, we're the mountain dwelling Khazad-dûm dwarves, and then like, oh, you're the dwarves that just like live outside.
Let's go with mountain dwarf.
Okay, a mountain dwarf that found Clover and it just goes by Clover, but has like a grand, eloquent dwarven name, true name.
And now he like keeps it pressed in a book.
And what is the job or role in society for Clover the mountain dwarf?
What is his job? He's living in the mountain. Miner is just like a little bit too easy. I think
Sure.
this is
Is there a job or something that made him or allowed him to like journey outside a lot, and then that's how he found the clover? Or is it a rare clover that grew like inside the mountain or something like that?
yeah. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe the clover was like given to him or something. Or no,
Oh.
I think it's more fun if you found it. What would bring him outside?
Or in a remote place inside the mountain that maybe few people are able to go or have ever been to
You know
before.
what I think? You know what I think actually, and I was kind of leaning towards this, but I kind of found a way for it to work with going outside. Is that Clover is like finds and sells crystals.
Okay.
So he'll go out on these expeditions into the mountain in these like these mineral rich, crystal rich areas, and he ended up mining. So he guess he's kind of a miner. He ended up getting into this area that like was very close to the surface and broke through into the surface and kind of like, oh my gosh, this is my first time like seeing the sun before. And then like found himself in like a clover patch, a clover field.
Oh, okay. All
Yeah.
right. Now I'm just imagining like a Minecraft. He's just going through and he's
Yeah.
like, and he just pops up and he's like, oh, I mean, I've seen sunlight reflected off the mirrors or whatever inside the mountains,
Yeah.
but this is like with my own true eyes outside. Like, okay, that's pretty
Yeah.
cool. So I know you were saying, oh, I don't want to steer to miner. So maybe more of like a mineral merchant who has
Yeah.
experience with, maybe he was a miner in his younger days. He's like, you know what? I can make more just by, actually
Yeah, I think all the
selling
other
them.
miners, I think he, as a miner growing up, like found this outcrop of like this crystal cave. And while all the dwarves thought it was cool, they're like, that's not our job. Our job is to find, the silver, the gold, whatever. He's like, I don't know, this stuff seems pretty cool. And then
Mhm.
he ended up kind of breaking off and doing his own thing.
Is he like the head of a guild or a company of some sort? Like he's the
I don't
head of
know. I
it?
feel like it's a small business.
Small
It's a
business?
small business. I think the dwarves are very practical people.
Mm.
And but he does find he has his regular customers who come by and find if he has any new products, or if
Is
anybody comes by the mountain that's like a kind of a tourist spot to go check out his crystals. And sometimes they might be like a little magically, like there's a little magic essence within them that he doesn't even know because he's not like magically inclined.
Oh, okay, interesting. And so is he venturing out to like towns to sell his wares, or he just set up shop, within the mountain somewhere, and like whenever tourists are, oh, we want to go see the mines, and obviously the dwarves are heavily protective of like the stuff that's really important. And then they're like, oh, this guy does crystals. Sure, we'll go check him out. And then he's like, well, actually, these things are pretty cool.
Yeah, I think he kind of sets himself up in the best spot for when tourists come by, and like they enter the town or the city within the mountain,
Hmm.
and kind of sets himself up in that town square, and he has this big sign that says Clover's crystals.
Okay, very cool. And then let's see, how old is Clover? If we're imagining him as a miner in his younger days, and maybe he doesn't necessarily do that as much.
Yeah, he's not a young man anymore, but he's definitely not old. I'd say like right around like 270 for indoor veneers,
The next question here, describe the physical appearance. So when we're imagining Clover, this mountain dwarf who sells crystals and leads tourist expeditions to crystalline caves, what do you imagine that Clover looks like?
I think Clover dresses a little bit more like flamboyantly, where he's like dressing like light, like brighter colors. Where everybody else is kind of like, you're in the mountains, everybody's wearing like browns and blacks and grays, while he wants to bring a little bit of color to the world, kind of matches crystals. So he's wearing purples, he's wearing blue, he's wearing greens. I think he even knots his beard with braids that like kind of weave in a weave of blue or green into it, into his like black hair. But yes, he has his fully, dwarven like top knot with like braided beard, but there's some like weaves of green and blues and purples based on his outfit on the day.
And is he like well tolerated or liked within his society, or they're just like, oh, that's Clover, like, yeah, he's cool, but he's doing his own thing and we've got more important things to do? Or is it like outright like we don't know what to do with this guy? Or
I think he's more of like the a character within a subculture. all the rest of them, all the rest of the dwarves are all miners and they're doing their thing, going to work every single day. Well, he's, he owns a shop. He dresses in bright colors. He's selling these crystals that like only a few people within the town want. I think he's kind of within this kind of subculture of whatever city he's in, and kind of hangs with those people.
Okay, so he does run his own shop in the town, and I know you
Yeah.
were saying it's a small business, so he's probably only got like a handful of people that probably work for him.
Mm-hmm.
Are they like other people from his clan, his community, or are they like former tourists who decided, you know what, I want to come work for you or something like that?
I think there is a tourist who stayed by as his helper. He's like a human woman who was very interested and wanted to help out, and helps him like search out for crystals. And then a deep gnome is also
Cool.
one that kind of helps work his shop, and like works the front desk often.
Okay, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I like
Yeah.
it. All right, so they got the regular station of like if he goes into the town square and he's like trying to drum up business and like, hey, let's go on to the cave, and then you exit the gift shop, which is his shop, and he's like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, come get yourself a nice bag of rocks and crystals like we would all do as kids when we went to the zoo or
Exactly.
whatever, and it's like, oh, these rocks, I gotta have them or whatever.
And you know what? Actually, a big part, a big pull for Clover's Crystals, the store, is that if you enter the business, the back there's a door that goes through the back into this cave where there is a crystal cave where they're not for sale, but you can kind of enter and like pay a fee to enter and like check out the crystal cave, and it's all lit up and like shiny and bright in there.
Oh, so kind of like natural bridge caverns or
Yeah,
something like that, where you go in to look and then like you're actually getting like a geology, gemology, stone cutting history. It's like
yeah,
you see the
exactly.
natural deposits of limestone here, where then affected
Yeah.
the chemistry of the crystals that
You
grew
see,
here.
stalactites are the one on the ceiling, stalagmites are the one on the ground. Yeah, that whole thing.
It's like, oh, and then like a bunch
Yeah,
of humans and like sketch artists are like, because they don't have cameras, they're like,
yeah.
oh wow, these are so cool.
Just a
Very,
couple more minutes. Let me get the sketch done.
yeah. All right, cool. And if you had to describe Clover with three adjectives, what three adjectives would you use?
Different. He is different than the other people in his town and his clan. He is colorful, and he is easygoing.
What is a valuable item, a piece of lore, a secret, or an ideal or concept that Clover would ascribe to?
Oh, so sorry. Let me
Normally, this would be a thing like where people could roll for randomly. Sometimes when
yeah,
people like are bringing a character or they're like making up a character, they might
yeah.
throw in a couple of things, which is fine, but just a valuable item. Maybe there's a piece of lore he knows. Maybe there's a
I
secret he
think
has or
I
whatever.
think he has an item. It's an item that he kind of keeps close possession of. It might not be valuable to the rest of the world, but it's something that like he'll show to like people that he trusts. It's this very well polished crystal that he doesn't polish all of his crystals, but the ones that he kind of keeps for himself, he might do. It's this amethyst. It's very clear, but all the facets you kind of see like a flash of purple. But in the middle is this nugget of gold, kind of like tracing back to his dwarven roots of valuing gold very highly. It's like in the middle of this mineral, and I do not know if this is geologically
It's a
possible.
fantasy world. It can work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it is just like this gold nugget that is actually definitely valuable within the amethyst, and he kind of keeps it hidden as like this cool geological like crystal and like keepsake, but also because he knows that the other dwarves might try to like crack it open for the gold itself.
Sure. They're like, we don't worry about the amethyst. It's the
Yeah,
nugget we want inside. And is it like a very big? Is it like
like
as
a
big as your
fist,
hand or
like a
like small?
fist-sized nugget within like a kind of football-sized crystal.
And let's see. All of our NPCs that we make on the show have to be able to offer up a side quest for our characters. So, what's a particular quest that Clover would be willing to recruit or hire player characters to go and do on his behalf?
He would hire the player characters to go off into this crystal cavern that has been taken over by a Zorn, or maybe a family of Zorn. And oh gosh, there's got to be a twist in there somewhere.
Sure. Because Zorn are attracted to minerals, and I think
Yeah.
sometimes deep gnomes raise Zorns to be like their pets, to like, basically like bloodhounds to sniff out
Hmm.
where valuables are. So is it like a pack of
Maybe
wild Zorn?
it's definitely wild Zorn, but they do find like an infant Zorn there that the party can possibly like tame and cause it to be like have it be a party pet. Don't
All
know
right.
how a DM like would work with a Zorn working with the party.
Sure.
Um,
Well, I mean, if you've got a MCDM Beast Heart class that
oh
picks up a companion Zorn to fight in
yeah.
battle with you and also sniff out minerals, I suppose, when you're not in combat.
Yeah, I think it's an opportunity to be able to get this Zorn baby as a friend to the party. Do Zorns like do they digest all the gold and stuff that they consume, right? Because they're trying to consume all this like valuable material, but I guess they're just digesting it because it's their food. Maybe that the Zorn had just had a meal and like they end up finding like all this gold inside of it and like maybe a magic item.
Looking it up on the Forgotten Realms wiki, what it actually says, which they are neutral elemental creatures. So it is very possible that, a
Yeah,
family, a pack of wild Zorns have just encroached on the city.
they're
And of
not
course,
evil.
they're just natural. They're doing their thing. Scavengers, they consumed rocks, minerals, and gems. In fact, they could not digest meat at all. So they did not attack creatures on the prime material plane. They only attacked to defend themselves, although they could be more aggressive if hungry and hunting for their inorganic food. If in groups, they would often send one of their number to negotiate for food. It was extremely likely that they would attack if their requests for food were not granted. Wait, do they speak?
Mm.
Let's see
I was gonna
here.
say it sounds like they speak, but like how does he
They
get
do
this
speak
information
Common
across?
and Terran, so it
I
is
did not know
possible
that
that you
Zorn
can.
speak common. That's crazy.
Well, if I don't have a Zorn already on my random table list, I gotta make sure I
Yeah.
have one available.
Maybe he has a Zorn working in his shop.
Could be, yeah, maybe another employee that kind of
Yeah.
like
I don't know. I
helps.
feel like that's too dangerous. He'd be too tempted to eat the
Oh,
product.
okay. So just a natural, normal family of Zorn have moved in to a cavern of crystals that Clover would love to
Yeah.
open up, but now
Well,
they're
and
like,
maybe the family of Zorn are maybe they're able to be reasoned with. Like, if you end up like kind of taking over this cavern of crystal, you're kind of taking away their food supply.
yeah,
Maybe you can kind of negotiate them with them in some way rather than just like outright killing them. But if the party just ends up going in there,
hmm
it's hard to stop them.
sure, yeah, because they have the abilities to like earth glide or like burrow in the
Mm-hmm.
earth, and they're just like they're zipping all around, and then you're just like, where'd they go? And it's like tremors
Mm-hmm.
or something like that, and you're just well, I don't know if a Zorn would actually eat a person whole or anything like
I
that, but
love the idea of it, like just coming out of the ground, like, kind of jaws like, and then slowly
or
going
a
back down.
Zorn, goes down and like nudges a purple worm, and then all of a sudden a purple worm
Yeah.
emerges and attacks the party. Like, oh, these guys are too tough. Let's go bug the sleeping purple worm that'll come up and attack these people that are bothering our food source.
Yeah, that's definitely late game.
Okay, all right. So then it becomes a matter of Clover wants to go in here to be able to mine it, but obviously, these are intelligent, sapient creatures, that view this as their rightful food source. And so Clover's asking the party to go in and negotiate.
Yeah, just kind of get rid of them by whatever means they're willing to do.
Okay, all right. So, however creatively, okay. So then what's going to be the reward for successfully negotiating, like however that comes about? They allow the Zorn to stay there. Maybe they convince them to leave. Maybe they work out a deal, like some sort of relationship business deal with Clover in a shop. What's the reward going to look like?
I think Clover offers up to the party that he has this crystal or gem or something that has been that he found is magically infused, and he doesn't know exactly what it does, but he's willing to hand it over to the party for reward.
Okay. Maybe like a psionic crystal or something like that.
Yeah, maybe like in Tasha's there was like those cool sorcerer foci. Maybe it's like something like that. Maybe it's like an Ioun stone, or it's like an Ioun stone that's encased in like amber or quartz or something.
Interesting. So then you'd have to, break it out of there to get it
Yeah.
or something like that. And he just doesn't have the heart to break it. He's like, ah,
Well,
but
yeah, he doesn't even know the value of it. Yeah.
sure. Okay. Flip side of that, what's going to be the consequence of failure if the party refuses to go deal with these Zorn, or maybe they take the renegade violent option, or just the quote evil option of dealing with this situation? How is that going to resolve?
I think part of Clover's easygoing nature is that he also is a little bit more chaotic neutral, in that he doesn't care too much if the Zorn are, negotiated with or just like taken out. So like doing the evil version might not feel good to the party, but it's not going to affect the mission. If
Mm-hmm.
they just straight up fail the mission,
Does the
Maybe
purple worm emerge and start attacking the town or something like that?
maybe Clover stays out of it, but his deep gnome employee actually is like also works in the like underground of the city and is kind of like part of the criminal underworld. Six the those thieves on the party.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so the Deep Gnome employee of Clover's shop is actually secretly part of some sort of criminal enterprise.
Yeah.
And so then him working at the business is like a front for him, or it's just like his cover.
I think it's cover. I think it's and it's definitely like negotiated with Clover.
Oh, right, because Clover's kind of like the
Clover
more like,
knows. Yeah.
oh, okay.
Clover knows, and he's cool with like, because he's part of the subculture. He knows about this like criminal underground, and is kind of like cool with it. He brings work to them sometimes. Yeah, this deep gnome will find information within the shop from tourists and kind of be able to pass it down along the line.
They go visit Clover's crystal shop, but then he's able to intel and be like, hey, watch out for this tourist. He clumsily carries a money bag, very obviously. So if you wait for the right moment, you could abscond with it and he wouldn't know or something.
Yeah, I mean, what better way for like a criminal to kind of hide out and have a cover than like a touristy gift shop?
Oh, yeah. So
Kind of
it's
gets to
like,
see everybody who's new in town.
yeah. And then it's just like the times when I went to Europe way back when, oh, you got to be careful of these street artists or these people that are trying to sell you junk or something like that. Watch out because, when you're not paying attention, 5-finger discount or something like that. Okay, interesting. All right, so they fail,
and they won't be stolen within Clover's shop, because that's the negotiation he has with them, is that he wants people coming back to the shop, but
Sure.
outside of his walls, anything goes. When Clover has a customer within the store and is actually working with someone, he tries to protect them from this criminal guild. If they're unsuccessful in this, that's when he goes to his deep gnome employee and says, all right, these people are all yours. They're no use to me, especially if they're not buying anything. So you either get out of it by finishing the job or buying something of value from Clover.
Interesting. Okay, and so by refusing to like go on this errand for Clover, that already kind of puts a strike in his book against them.
Or if they fail in the mission in general. Yeah.
Right. They come back empty-handed. They're not able to successfully work out anything. They don't kill the Zorn. They're like, sorry, we're not going to do anything with them. Then I guess he's like, okay, sure, smiling. But then meanwhile, he'll go to the Deep Gnome and say, all right, they're fair game in the city or whatever like that. And then that's a whole other tangent of a quest line where the party is now getting embroiled with this criminal enterprise within the Dwarven city.
Yeah, they made an enemy without even realizing it,
yeah. Oh, okay then. All right. Yeah, now that we understand who Clover is as a character, I think it's time that we engage in a random encounter. This random encounter is brought to you by Reaper Miniatures. They have been Texas titans of the tabletop industry since 1994. They're right here in DFW, and they've got an amazing warehouse and game store. They make everything from paints to gaming accessories, and they stream on Twitch and YouTube with tutorials and interviews. Whatever system you're running, whatever game you're playing, Reaper has a miniature for you. Every time you shop with them and spend $40, $50 on your purchase, they're going to give you a cool new mini of the month. And it's always something new, so all the more incentive to check back and shop often. I know I was recently awarded another gift card, so thank you very much, Reaper Miniatures, for the continued vote of confidence and support in my little humble podcast. Of course, you know by now, Reaper Miniatures Bones 6, Tales from the Green Griffin, went live on Kickstarter, and that is all completed now, but get on the backer kit, get involved, and get yourself some really cool minis, as well as we are still supporting UNICEF efforts for Ukraine through Reaper Miniatures by getting this little $9.99 figurine that's a Kenku Nightingale Bard character. And of that $9.99, you're spending $7.50 is allocated again towards UNICEF relief efforts for Ukraine. So visit my website or go to the show notes below. Use that referral link, and when you use that link to go shop on Reaper, you're actually supporting Sidekicks and Sidequests at the same time. By clicking that link on my website, it helps to track the traffic that our show directs towards Reaper Miniatures. The more traffic, the more that our Texas powers combine. So again, go check the link out on the website in order to use my special referral code, and be sure to follow Reaper Miniatures on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, and YouTube.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, so this is the part of the show where we get to play some D&D. We get to role play, do a little vignette, a scene. So, with Johnny here taking the role of Clover, real dwarven name to be determined in your game, Dungeon Master. It's out there. But what kind of scene are you interested in showcasing Clover in? Are you wanting to do it so it's a him meeting one of the podcast characters, or is it him interacting with one of the shop employees, or something like that? Or what are you kind of interested in?
I think Clover has just seen that somebody has entered their store and he is coming out from the back room, maybe taking some gloves off, and is welcoming the party.
You want Clover to meet one of the podcast characters then?
Sure.
Okay, so we got 5 to choose from, and maybe Clover decides to offer the side quest. Who knows? But we've got Duncan, who's the recklessly brave, happy-go-lucky adventurer for hire. We have Sonia, the warrior woman, who multi-classed into paladin. We have Korak, the lawful evil arcane trickster dwarf. We have Chrisley, who's the shy herbalist botanist, wood elf druid, who multi-classed to cleric. And then we have a brand new character, Orion, who is the astral elf illusionist wizard. And those are the 5 that have been created. But if you're not satisfied with any of those, we're more than happy to come up with a different random podcast character.
Sure. Let's go with the 4th one, the druid cleric who is shy.
So where we last left our hero, Chrisley, she was interacting with Ashira, the bearfolk herbalist, out in the woods, and she spent quite a bit of time learning more with her and learning these new bits of knowledge, enhancing to living memory. And it's a good long while that she spends with her, and I feel like, her druid powers, her cleric powers, she's increased. And, she regards Ashira as a mentor and a dear beloved friend. And it's before too long that she feels the pull of adventure calling her once again. And Ashira recommends going to check out the Dwarven Mountain if she's needing to continue on this quest as far as serving the other voice, living memory, on that pathhood of restoring the Zotani people, the Zotani nation. Surreptitiously working on this side quest with Pathos Anthropoi to restore all. And so we'll say it takes her a little bit of time, but she makes her way there. And this is definitely very alien to her. Like, she's been to like human type settlements and seen that civilization. She's been to the Feywild, but she hasn't actually been to like a proper dwarven settlement. So when she passes through the gates of this place, what is she seeing on the inside? What does this place look like?
So she enters the mountain of Alvaron,
Okay.
and the dwarven city of Therum. And within this city, very like archetypal, dwarven, like stone cut gates, like kind of an archway with dwarven runes inscribed in them saying "Welcome to Therum." There is a small town square. It is very kind of brutalist-architecture, but tries to get the homey feel while still doing it. So there is it's not necessarily a fountain, it's more just like a pool of standing water in the middle, but they keep it clean through like filtering the water through. There is within this town square is Clover's crystals to the left, and then there is a long road down going through this cavern, mountain walls to the side, all roofed. You're underground, and then the mines are further down into the mountain. But this is kind of the highest elevation point of Therum.
Okay, and there's nothing like built further up and around going up the sides of the walls or anything like that. Like, this is the top, basically.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's much bigger than this, but those towns that you'll go through on a freeway where it's kind of lines up against a freeway and it's very long but not very wide. The further you get away from the freeway, there's just nothing there. But rather than the further you get away from this road, it's just stone. It's just mountain. So this is just like a long cavern that has businesses and then goes into homes and then goes into the mining quarter.
Okay. All right. Interesting. So Chrisley is walking in through this square. She sees this individual and she begins to approach. And as Clover looks and can see like this mishmash, she looks like a druid, but she also looks like a cleric too. She spent quite a bit of time with nature, and especially with Ashira. She kind of looks wild as well. Like, she is well back to natural appearances. She has like ferns, and maybe not ferns, but she has all kinds of like lichen and all sorts of other plant bits growing off of her naturally, and it's like incorporated into her look, so she almost looks like this guardian of nature that's like set forth into this dwarven brutalist Eastern European
Mm-hmm.
post-Soviet sort of society looking place maybe. But she sees this brightly colored robed individual, and she'll stop and she'll look and she'll say, oh, hello, nice to make your acquaintance. My friend Ashira said that this might be an interesting place to go. And you can see she's looking around, and she is regarding Clover, but Clover can look and see that her eyes are like shifting colors as she's looking around, as if she's like seeing past and through things, as if she's trying to get a deeper meaning or understanding of what she's seeing. I'm, I don't, I don't know if I've been here before. But she says it in a way as if like, well, how else could she have been here before?
Mm-hmm.
This is like literally her first time here. But yeah, she'll trail off and allow Clover to speak.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to Therum. You seem very new here, but you know, all travelers must come through Clover's crystals. I'm sure your friend Ashira mentioned Clover's crystals as the #1 place to go to within Therum, and you seem like you have a taste for natural beauty. Am I right about that?
Oh, she kind of blushes a little bit, and she's like, "Oh, yeah, well, yes, of course, yes, I do. That is right."
I can tell. I can tell. Now you have this beautiful, vines, leaves, mushrooms. You have a great aesthetic here. Now I really think it could use just a little pop, a little, a facet of something just gorgeous on a lapel maybe, or behind your ear, or pinning up your hair. And I think I have just the thing for you. Please come into my store. Please come into my store.
Sure. She reaches down and she pulls out this book and she looks over the landscape, and kind of like an iRobot, her hand moves very fast. She's still following you and talking to you, but her hand moves so fast, and it's like a photorealistic sketch that she does from this vantage point of the square looking down further down. And she'll say, yes, this will serve the living memory well of learning more of this place. Certainly, yes, I will follow you to your shop. And so
Oh, you haven't even seen anything yet. Just wait till you see this whole shop. I promise you, this has been my life's passion. I have been building this place out, and I can only imagine what it must like seeing it for the first time. I wish I could see this for the first time. Please believe me, these crystals are just going to take your breath away. And okay. I walk her into the all these different shelves, like lined with glass, underlit to really have these gems and crystals sparkle.
Okay, yeah. And then I guess, is there like a tour or something that she has the ability to go on and stuff like that? If Clover's leading it, or is it another one of the employees?
Yeah, so she'll see the deep gnome, Findril, the deep gnome, sitting behind the front desk, kind of reading a book, but definitely giving her, trying not to you're being very subtle about it, but giving a little bit of side eye to her. And the human woman, Layla, is out, excavating different crystals, but Clover will offer all these different aesthetic jewelry type crystals that he might think will go with her outfit. And then he will also try to sell her on the Crystal Cavern tour for 5 gold pieces behind the building through a back room.
Yeah, she'll roll an insight check on Clover, I guess. And, she's basically tapped into like the Matrix, as it were, through this living memory. And, this is her first time interacting with him. And so she doesn't have any previous recollection necessarily to kind of draw on. But she gets the genuine sense that, like, yeah, he really cares about this and he wants to show her and impress her. And she's not one to be too attached materially to things, but, she does have a small size of coin on her. And so she'll produce 5 gold pieces and she'll say, sure, I would love that tour.
Amazing. Please, right this way. Before we go into this tour, we are passing the my favorite shelf here, and I think that these opals, I saw this beautiful color within your eye, and I think these opals would absolutely match that. They're here. I show her a beautiful, like, kind of cat's eye opal that would work as like a nice brooch.
Ooh,
or
okay.
brooch. I apologize. I feel like everybody gets that wrong. I just fell into that trap.
She's from the surface, so her tribe, her community of wood elves have dealt with gems and stuff like that before, maybe through trade, maybe not necessarily excavating them herself, but she is impressed, and she'll say, living memory tells me of the skill and craftsmanship of dwarves, and certainly this is a testament to that. She's very impressed, and she says, will this be here waiting for me when we're done with the tour?
Absolutely. You do not need to make a decision yet. I will take you on this tour. It'll be a quick 10-minute tour, and we will come back in here. You let me know. We'll leave it here. Findril, come, please just put this aside so that nobody can take this beautiful young woman's priceless opal.
And is it fairly busy today, or is it like, or is she like the
No,
first
nobody else
person
is in
that's
the
come
shop.
through?
Nobody else is
Okay,
in the
so
shop.
he like rolls his eyes like, yeah, sure, I'll make sure
Yeah.
no one takes it, kind of a thing. And then she's like, okay. So yeah, so she'll go on the tour, and she's enraptured. She's learning about it all. Like, this is new information for her, that she's never partaken of before. And at least in particular in this community, I don't think anyone who served living memory before, none of the other Zotani Nimis have been here before. So she just doesn't have that knowledge. And so she feels very proud. She feels very special and unique, being able to get this tour, this insight, and this memory added to living memory. And so the tour ends, and then she'll come back, and she's riding a cloud. She's happy, and she'll ask how much the brooch costs then.
Well, if please forgive me if I'm mistaken. This brooch is a very valuable item, and I'm sure that you're able to afford it. I'm not trying to insinuate otherwise, but I am happy to offer this to you for free. Well, for a price of going along in a small job for me, if you are willing. I'm trying to. Layla is out in the caves excavating already in this one cavern that we have discovered. There's another cavern that has been discovered that we need a little bit of help clearing out. Is that something that falls within your specialties?
Well, she looks down at her gear, all of it, and she's like, yes, I think I am well versed in the arts of defending nature, and I believe I've proven myself, yes, worthy of this challenge.
Well, that is incredible to hear. I've been trying to find someone who can do this for me, and you seem to be up for the job. I am trying to get this cavern to be workable. Once Layla is able to get in there, she will be able to excavate all these beautiful crystals. However, it is a bit too dangerous for her right now, as there is a pack of these nasty Zorn. Honestly, the bane of my existence. They don't treat these crystals as anything better than food. It is nutrients to them, while it is my life's blood. They just don't understand. And if you can convince them to leave this cavern, that there's other better meals elsewhere, that I would be in your debt. And I feel like I can make it even more worth your while further than this opal. This opal is pennies compared to what I can offer you if you are able to do this work for me. Are you able to do this?
She'll pause and think about it, but then she'll say, and you see her eyes are flashing different colors as she's like going through, and she's like, Zorn, huh, interesting. Okay. Yes, I think I am well suited to the task with dealing with these Zorn.
That is incredible to hear. Look, I will give you this opal just for going on the job. You come back, and I promise you there will be something much greater waiting here for you.
And so then she gets the details of where to go in this new mystery cavern, and she will undertake a diplomatic mission to speak with some Zorn.
Amazing.
And scene. Yeah, we did it. Woo! So what'd you think of getting to be Clover?
That was fun. I feel like if I had a chance to kind of embody the character for a little bit longer, I might try a dwarven voice for him. But man, I'm always nervous to do voices on a on a podcast like this. Like if you mess up at the very beginning and you can't get in that rhythm immediately, then it's going to go bad. So usually just try to do a different version of my own voice rather than try to go for the dwarven Scottish accent or something a little bit crazy.
Yeah, do you think Clover is going to be making an appearance anytime soon in a home game of yours, perhaps?
I think so. I don't have any dwarven subterranean cities planned, but I might have to make one. If not, then I'll definitely have it in my pocket for a future campaign or a future one shot.
There we go. Well, this segment of the show is called Final Thoughts. So, we always like to, leave it open for critique, criticism, and feedback, and just, seeing how you thought your time was on the show.
I loved it. I love that you had 5 characters to just ready, like on their own adventure, that you're willing to throw in there. I think that's really cool, and I hope that they get to meet each other at some point.
Yeah, I was thinking like, if, maybe a big Patreon goal or something like that would be very interesting. Like you were talking about like tournament things, like, oh, maybe if I actually built them out as real characters and did like a tournament battle and I had some of my guests on to play as the characters to fight each other, or, I based them all around a similar level. And then it's like, okay, I need you to go do one of the one-shot adventures for a side quest that's been offered up on the show that somehow it brings them all together. And they all are like, well, I guess we're a party and we're going to go off on an adventure together. So it definitely would be a very motley bunch, to say the least.
It'd be incredible, while probably very hard in production, would be having all of the characters meet each other and even maybe like act through initiative and fight something, but they're all voiced by you, not necessarily at the same time. Well, not, with you within one take, but it's like 5 different takes plus you as a DM, kind of all interacting with each other. I'm putting a lot on your plate for the Patreon, I'm sure.
Yeah, that would have to be like Patreon subscriptions, $100 a pop, and I have like a bunch of those. Like, all right, I guess I'm gonna endeavor on a one-man audio drama or something like that by myself.
Oh man, I would pay for it.
Well, we do have a Patreon, so if you do want to contribute, not to be that guy that's always like trying to promote his own brand in the middle of the closing part of his show, but yeah. So I always like to leave the very final moments of the show. So if there's anything that you'd like to plug, where can we find you on social media? Are there any causes or anything like that that you want to leave us with before we end this year's this Christmas/New Year episode?
Yeah, everybody, treat yourself, treat others well in this new year. You can find me at Johnny Stanton IV on Twitter, Instagram, and on Twitch. I paint miniatures. I play video games. I have very cool, fun guests on. I've had Robbie Damon, great voice actor, been on Critical Role on my show in the past. I have, by the time this comes out, I'm hoping to have a number of other people who have been on the show, and I'm really excited to hopefully have you there interacting with me in chat.
Ooh, very cool. All right. Well, Mr. Stanton IV, thank you so much for your time. And to all of you out there in podcast radio land, this podcast just wants to wish you a very Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year. God bless us, one and all. All right.
It's not video. I'm not waving to anybody.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Sidekicks and Side Quests. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast through Apple Podcast, Google Play, Spotify, and Overcast, or feel free to save the RSS feed to use the app of your choice. Visit our website, sidekicksandside.com, for links, write-ups of the NPCs, and to learn more about the show and the guests who have been on it. To stay up to date and interact via social media, you can follow the podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Reddit by searching for SideKQ Podcast. I would love to talk D&D and showcase your fan art, stories of how you used our NPCs, discussions, and commentary. If you would like to hail the bard, simply send an email to sidekicksandsidequests@gmail.com. To help this show be the resource it's meant to be, I ask that you please leave a review on iTunes to help spread the word and share our podcast with your friends and family. Whether you're a veteran player or an aspiring dungeon master, or you've never played Dungeons & Dragons before, there's something here for everyone, and I want to hear about it. And finally, after 2 years, I've decided to open a Patreon for Sidekicks and Side Quests. If you love this podcast and you want to help us grow and expand our operations, I would appreciate it if you would go on over to patreon.com/sidekicks and side quests. No matter your lifestyle expenses, we have wonderful rewards at every level of Patreon membership tier. Your name on the wall of the levitating platter, a loud hurrah on the podcast, or the possibility to introduce an element of chance to NPC creation. Sidekicks and Sidequests is unofficial fan content permitted under the fan content policy, meaning I'm not approved or endorsed by Wizards. Portions of the materials used are property Wizards of the Coast, copyright Wizards of the Coast, LLC. Thank you for your support, and I'll see you at the pub next time.
Bar to rock on 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.